Before you begin your day, pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple but piercing question. What is the very first thing you search for each morning? Do you search for your phone, your messages, your schedule, or the approval of people? Or do you search for the presence of God, the only source capable of bringing order, peace, and clarity to everything else that will unfold in your life? This single decision at the start of your day determines far more than you realize. It sets the tone of your thoughts, it decides the direction of your emotions, and it shapes the way you respond to every challenge ahead. Many people spend their mornings searching for answers in all the wrong places, hoping that something external will fill the emptiness inside. Yet the truth is simple and undeniable. The first search of your day reveals the foundation of your heart. If your first instinct is to run to distraction, you will spend the day distracted. If your first instinct is to chase approval, you will spend the day insecure. But if your first instinct is to seek God, you will spend the day anchored, guarded, and guided. Seeking Him first is not just a suggestion for a better day. It is the very principle that can transform your entire life. God promised in His Word, "You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart." That promise does not expire, and it is not reserved for the perfect or the religious. It is for you, today, right now, in the middle of your doubts, fears, and questions. Think about how many searches you make in a single day. You search for directions. You search for information. You search for solutions to problems. You search for meaning in conversations and approval in the eyes of others. But before all these searches, there is one that cannot be ignored. It is the search that defines every other. To seek God first is to align your heart with the eternal before facing the temporary. It is to place your worries in the hands of the one who already holds tomorrow. It is to silence the voices of anxiety so that you can hear the whisper of truth. When you seek Him first, you are not starting the day with emptiness but with abundance. You are not beginning with fear, but with confidence. You are not running into chaos, but walking in order. And yet, the danger is subtle. Every morning, there is a temptation to believe that something else must come first. The news, the phone, the tasks, the noise of the world. But those things drain you before the day even begins. They promise clarity but leave you confused. They promise security but leave you anxious. They promise connection but leave you lonely. God is the only one who can satisfy the deepest thirst of your soul, and the very act of seeking Him before anything else opens the door for His peace to flow into every corner of your day. This introduction is not meant to condemn you, but to awaken you. You have a choice right now to change the order of your morning. The invitation is clear. The promise is eternal. Seek Him first, and everything else will find its rightful place. Do not let your day be defined by confusion when God has already offered you clarity. Do not let your heart be ruled by fear when God has already given you His spirit of power and love. Before you search for anything else today, search for Him. Every search begins with a need, and every need reveals a hunger inside the human soul. When you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, it is not simply the screen you are after. You are reaching for reassurance, for confirmation that you matter, for the comfort of knowing you are not alone in this world. When you search the internet endlessly, it is rarely just information you are looking for. Deep down, you are craving certainty, a steady voice to tell you what is right, what is safe, and what direction you should take. Even in the pursuit of career goals or financial milestones, the hunger beneath the surface is rarely just about numbers or status. It is about meaning, about significance, about the need to feel that your life carries weight and purpose. And when you look at the way people throw themselves into relationships, chasing approval, affection, and validation, You realize that behind every pursuit is the deepest hunger of all, the longing to be unconditionally loved. The tragedy is that most of the time we spend our energy feeding on things that were never designed to satisfy those hungers. Money can buy a comfortable bed, but it cannot give you rest for your restless heart. Applause can lift your ego for a moment, but it cannot silence the fear that whispers you are still not enough. Achievements can decorate your resume, but they cannot protect you from the anxiety that keeps you awake at night. Success, comfort, approval, and recognition are like rivers of salt water. You drink deeply, but the more you consume, the thirstier you become. They appear to promise fullness, but they leave you emptier with every sip. The more you search the world for satisfaction, the more frustrated you become, because every answer it gives is temporary, and every comfort it offers quickly fades. This is why the invitation to seek God first is not just a suggestion for religious people. It is a lifeline for every soul. Seeking Him first does not mean ignoring your real needs. It means bringing them to the only one who can truly meet them. Jesus Himself declared, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." Notice that word, filled, not entertained, not distracted, not temporarily relieved. Filled. To be filled means to be made whole, to be satisfied at the deepest level of your being, to experience a peace that is not tied to your circumstances, to carry a joy that cannot be stolen by disappointment, to walk in strength that does not vanish when life becomes heavy. Think for a moment about the difference between temporary satisfaction and deep fulfillment. Temporary satisfaction is like eating sugar when you are starving. It gives a rush, it fools you for a moment, but soon after you crash, and the emptiness returns with even more intensity. Deep fulfillment, however, is like a nourishing meal that strengthens you from the inside out. It sustains you, it empowers you, and it equips you to face what is ahead. When you start your day by seeking God, you are choosing deep fulfillment over empty satisfaction. You are admitting that nothing else will do, that no headline, no text message, no achievement, and no human approval can fill the space only God was meant to occupy. To seek God first in the morning is to begin your day by acknowledging reality, that He is your source, your anchor, your guide, and your provider. It is to confess, "Lord, I need you more than I need clarity, more than I need control, more than I need recognition. You are my bread of life. You are my living water. Without you, I remain empty no matter how much I accomplish." And here is the great paradox of the spiritual life. The moment you admit your dependence, you discover true freedom. The very act of acknowledging that you cannot fill yourself opens the way for God to fill you. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. When a child runs to a parent for food, that child is not weak but wise enough to know where provision comes from. When a traveler stops to refill his lamp, he is not weak but wise enough to know he cannot walk in darkness without light. And when you stop at the start of your day to seek God before anything else, you are not being religious or ritualistic. You are being wise enough to recognize that your soul cannot live on substitutes. You need the presence of the living God to give life to every other part of your day. That is why this principle matters so much. It is not about adding a spiritual checkbox to your routine. It is about reordering your priorities so that the hunger driving your life is finally fed by the right source. Begin your day searching for God, and you will find a peace that steadies you when the world shakes. Begin your day searching for God, and you will discover clarity in the middle of confusion. Begin your day searching for God, and you will carry strength that does not fade when pressure rises. It is not about ignoring the challenges you face, but about facing them filled, sustained, and equipped by the one who alone can satisfy the hunger of your soul. Every day begins with choices that seem small, but hold enormous power. The very first thing you allow into your mind has the authority to set the tone for everything that follows. If your morning begins with noise, distraction, and comparison, then those seeds will grow throughout the day and color every thought you think. If your morning begins with stress, rushing, and the pressure to perform, then anxiety becomes the lens through which you see every situation. But when your morning begins with seeking God, a different atmosphere is created. Instead of chaos, you breathe peace. Instead of insecurity, you receive assurance. Instead of carrying the heavy burden of control, you place your trust in the one who already holds the day. This is not superstition, it is spiritual truth. What you seek first becomes the anchor for everything else. If you seek validation, your day will rise and fall based on the opinions of others. If you seek success, your heart will live in constant tension between achievement and fear of failure. If you seek comfort, you will run from anything that feels difficult, even if it is the very thing meant to grow you. But if you seek God, you start with an anchor that does not move, a truth that does not change, and a love that cannot be shaken. It is not about ignoring the realities of life, but about choosing to place those realities in the hands of the one who rules over them. Think about how often we underestimate the power of beginnings. A small flame can ignite a great fire. A single seed can grow into a forest. The tone set in the first moments of your morning has a multiplying effect. Seek distraction first, and distraction will multiply. Seek comparison first, and insecurity will multiply. Seek God first, and peace will multiply. Wisdom will multiply, clarity will multiply. The Bible says, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths." To acknowledge Him at the very start is to invite His direction over every path you will walk that day. Seeking God first is more than a habit. It is a declaration of priorities. It is telling your own soul, you will not be ruled by fear today. You will not be ruled by the pressure of the world. You will not be defined by the noise that surrounds you. You will be defined by the presence of God. It is telling heaven and earth that you belong to the Lord, that your allegiance is not to your stress or your schedule but to your Savior. It is a quiet but powerful way of establishing spiritual authority over your day. When you choose to open your morning with prayer, you are not simply speaking words into the air. You are drawing a line in the sand. You are declaring that this day will not be controlled by chaos but by the peace of God. You are proclaiming that this day will not be wasted chasing after shadows, but will be lived in the light of His guidance. You are shifting the entire atmosphere of your inner world, which in turn reshapes the way you handle the outer world. Problems may still come, but you face them differently. Temptations may still rise, but you resist them with strength. Doubts may still whisper, but they are drowned out by the truth you anchored yourself in first. This choice, though it seems simple, becomes a habit that rewrites your future. Each day that you seek God first, you are not just surviving the hours ahead. You are building a foundation that cannot be shaken. You are teaching your heart where to run. You are training your mind what voice to listen to. You are disciplining your soul to draw from the right source. Over time, this daily decision transforms your character, your perspective, and even your destiny. Because when God becomes your first search, He also becomes your guiding presence, your sustaining strength, and your unshakable hope for every moment that follows. There is a quiet battle happening each morning, and most people do not even recognize it. The moment your eyes open, voices begin to compete for your attention. The voice of worry whispers about unfinished tasks. The voice of fear reminds you of past failures. The voice of comparison calls you to measure your worth against someone else's success. And yet, there is another voice, softer but stronger, waiting to be heard. It is the voice of God saying, "Seek me first, and I will give you peace. Seek me first, and I will show you the way. The battle is not about whether you will listen to a voice, but about which voice will define the direction of your day. If the first voice you allow into your mind is the noise of the world, then the world will dictate how you think, how you feel, and how you react. If the first voice is your own fear, then fear will shape the lens through which you interpret every event. But if the first voice is the voice of God, spoken through His Word and confirmed in prayer, then peace will guard your thoughts, strength will rise in your spirit, and clarity will light your path. Seeking God first is not a passive idea. It is a decisive action in the middle of a spiritual battle. To ignore it is to surrender to confusion, but to embrace it is to step into victory before the day even begins. This is why so many mornings feel heavy and overwhelming. Without realizing it, you may be starting each day already defeated because you began with the wrong search. You gave the loudest voices control before you even got out of bed. But imagine what could change if, instead of scrolling through messages or rushing into worry, you paused to search for God. Imagine the shift in your mind if the first words you heard were His promises instead of your fears. Imagine the strength you would carry if the first atmosphere you stepped into was prayer instead of pressure. Every battle is won or lost by preparation, and the preparation of your day begins in the first moments. When you choose to seek God first, you are putting on spiritual armor before stepping onto the battlefield of life. You are filling your heart with truth before lies can creep in. You are strengthening your spirit before discouragement has the chance to weaken you. Seeking Him first is not about escaping the battle. It is about entering it already armed with peace, wisdom, and strength. God never promised a life without challenges, but He promised His presence in the middle of them. That presence is not something you stumble upon halfway through the day. It is something you intentionally seek before the day even begins. To seek Him first is to say, Lord, I choose your voice over my fears. I choose your truth over the lies. I choose your presence over the distractions that demand my attention. This choice does not remove the battle, but it changes how you fight it. You no longer fight in your own strength, but in the strength of the one who has never lost a battle. So recognize the voices around you, and be honest about the ones that have been shaping your mornings. If they leave you anxious, empty, or restless, then it is time to change your search. It is time to give the first word of your day to God. Because when His voice becomes the foundation, no other voice has the power to steal your peace or redirect your steps. The battle for your day is real, but victory begins with the choice to seek Him first. Every search we make reveals trust. To seek something first is to declare, even without words, that we believe it has the power to meet our need. When you reach for your phone before you pray, you are saying, I trust the updates, the messages, and the noise of the world to give me direction. When you search for success before seeking God, you are saying, I trust achievement to give me worth. When you run after approval before you run after Him, you are saying, I trust people to give me identity. But when you begin by seeking God, you are declaring, I trust you, Lord, to be my source, my guide, my strength, and my peace. Trust is not neutral. It is always being placed somewhere. Every morning before you take a single step, you are already setting the foundation of trust that will carry you through the hours ahead. If that foundation is fragile, then every disappointment will shake you. If it is built on shifting opinions, then your emotions will rise and fall like the tide. But if it is built on the unchanging presence of God, then even when storms come, you remain steady, rooted, and unshaken. Seeking Him first is not about routine. It is about alignment. It is choosing to align your trust with the only one who has never failed. Think about the power of misplaced trust. A plant that leans toward artificial light will never grow as strong as one that leans toward the sun. In the same way, when we lean our trust toward things that only appear to shine, we end up stunted, malnourished, and unfulfilled. But when we turn our trust toward the true light, we grow, we flourish, and we thrive. Every morning is a chance to turn your face like that plant toward the right source. To say, I will not lean on shadows today, I will lean on the one who gives life. The Bible reminds us, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. That is not an empty phrase. It is an invitation to release the exhausting pressure of trying to hold everything together on your own. To seek God first is to put your trust where it belongs, to surrender the illusion of control and receive instead the peace that comes from knowing He already sees the path ahead. It is trading anxiety for assurance, trading confusion for clarity, trading fear for faith. Each morning, you stand at a crossroads. One road is built on fragile trust in yourself, in people, in circumstances. That road will always leave you tired, because no matter how hard you try, you cannot control everything. The other road is built on trust in God, a trust that rests not in your ability, but in His faithfulness. That road gives you strength, peace, and courage for whatever you will face. Seeking Him first is choosing that second road. It is saying with your actions, Lord, I trust you to carry what I cannot. So ask yourself honestly, where have you been placing your trust at the beginning of your days? Has it left you restless, anxious, or constantly searching for more? If so, it is time to shift your trust back to the only one who will never fail. Each morning, when you seek God first, you are not only finding peace, you are declaring your trust. And trust placed in Him never ends in disappointment. There is a longing inside every person to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. It is one of the deepest desires of the human heart, and often the reason why people run so desperately after relationships, recognition, or approval. From the very first moments of the day, that longing begins to stir. You may not say it out loud, but your actions reveal it. The quick glance at social media, the restless check of messages, the silent hope that someone has noticed you or remembered you, all point to the same hunger, the desire to know that your life matters. Yet this constant search leaves you exhausted, because no amount of human approval can fill the space designed for divine affirmation. Seeking God first answers that longing in a way nothing else can. When you turn your attention to Him before turning it anywhere else, you are reminded of who you are and whose you are. You are not defined by likes, by responses, or by achievements. You are defined by the God who created you, redeemed you, and calls you His child. That truth has the power to silence insecurity at its root. Because when you start your day hearing His voice declare that you are chosen, loved, and accepted, you no longer spend the rest of the day chasing after echoes of what you have already received. Consider how much energy is wasted on searching for recognition from people who themselves are searching for recognition. It is like thirsty travelers offering each other empty cups, hoping someone else will have water. The result is always the same: disappointment, frustration, and an even deeper sense of emptiness. But when you seek God first, you are going directly to the fountain, not to an empty cup. He does not give you fragments of identity. He gives you the fullness of His love, a love that is unconditional and unchanging. That is why His approval is the only one that satisfies. This changes the way you carry yourself through the day. Instead of walking into work, into conversations, or into challenges desperate to be noticed, you walk in already secure. You are no longer searching for affirmation in the wrong places, because you have already been affirmed by the only voice that matters. You are no longer craving constant validation because your soul has been anchored in the eternal truth of God's word. This is not arrogance, it is peace. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows that their worth does not rise and fall with opinions, but rests safely in the love of God. When you give God your first attention, you are not only receiving His presence, you are receiving His perspective. He reminds you that you are more than what you produce, more than what others think, more than the fears that try to define you. He calls you by name and says, "You are mine." And once you know that, once you start your day with that kind of security, you become free. Free from the pressure of performance, free from the prison of comparison, free from the endless cycle of seeking approval in all the wrong places. So tomorrow morning, when the hunger to be seen rises again, pause before you run to others. Search for the one who already sees you completely. Seek the one who knows every detail of your life and still chooses you. Let his voice be the first voice that speaks over your heart. Because when God himself says you are loved, you no longer need to spend the day trying to prove it. His approval is enough, and it is the only approval that can set your soul at rest. Every morning carries with it a weight of decisions. Some are small and seem almost insignificant, like what to wear or what to eat. Others are larger and carry long-term consequences, like how to respond to conflict, how to use your time, or how to deal with pressure. What often goes unnoticed is that the way you begin your day determines how you approach every one of those choices. If you start with worry, every decision will be filtered through fear. If you start with distraction, every choice will be clouded by confusion. But if you start with God, every decision is anchored in wisdom that is higher than your own understanding. Seeking Him first is not just about peace for your heart, it is about clarity for your path. Life constantly confronts you with crossroads. Should you say yes or no? Should you hold on or let go? Should you speak up or remain silent? These moments often come without warning, and they test the very core of who you are. The danger of relying on your own instincts is that emotions are unstable, and logic is limited. What feels right in the moment can lead you down a path of regret. What looks appealing can disguise itself as a trap. But when you have sought God first, you are not relying on guesswork. You are drawing from the wisdom of the one who already sees the end from the beginning. His perspective is not bound by time, emotion, or limited knowledge. He knows what will harm you and what will help you. He knows the unseen dangers and the hidden blessings. This is why the Bible says, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths." To acknowledge God is to invite His guidance into the very details of your life. It is to admit that you do not know enough to walk alone. It is humility expressed in practice. Each morning when you begin by seeking Him, you are preparing yourself to make decisions not out of fear, pride, or pressure, but out of alignment with His wisdom. You are saying, "Lord, I do not want to lean on my own understanding today. I want to trust your direction." Think of the peace that comes from this posture. Instead of being paralyzed by indecision, you move forward with confidence because you know you are not alone. Instead of being crushed by the weight of choices, you rest in the assurance that God is guiding you. This does not mean life becomes free of hard decisions, but it does mean you are never left to face them in isolation. You walk with a counselor who never gives bad advice, the shepherd who never leads astray, the father who never abandons his child. Over time, this daily habit transforms how you see challenges. Decisions that once filled you with fear now become opportunities to see God's wisdom at work. Paths that once looked unclear become illuminated by His word. Situations that once overwhelmed you become manageable because you know you are being led step by step. Seeking God first changes the quality of your decisions because it changes the foundation from which you make them. You are no longer driven by impulse, by fear, or by the expectations of others. You are guided by wisdom, sustained by peace, and empowered by faith. So when you wake up tomorrow and the weight of decisions begins to press on your mind, remember where clarity begins. Do not search first for advice from the world or reassurance from people who cannot see what God sees. Search for Him. Seek His face, listen for His voice, and trust His word. Because when God directs your steps, even the hardest decisions lead you to a place of peace, growth, and purpose. Every person carries burdens into a new day. Some are obvious, like financial stress, health struggles, or conflict at home. Others are hidden, tucked away where no one else can see. Quiet fears, silent disappointments, the weight of mistakes you still carry. From the moment you wake up, those burdens try to take control. They push their way into your thoughts and demand your energy before you have even taken your first step. If your first search is toward the weight of your problems, the day will feel heavy before it begins. But if your first search is toward God, those burdens may not vanish, but they will be lifted into hands stronger than yours. Seeking Him first means surrendering the heaviness before it consumes you. It is choosing to say, "Lord, I cannot carry this on my own. I refuse to let my worries rule my mind. I place them in your care." This surrender is not weakness but strength, because it admits the truth we often avoid. We are not built to carry everything alone. The reason so many people feel exhausted is not only because of what life demands, but because of what they insist on carrying by themselves. God never asked you to live that way. He invites you to cast your cares on Him because He cares for you. Picture a traveler weighed down by a heavy backpack. Every step feels harder, every mile longer, until the weight becomes unbearable. Now imagine that same traveler setting the backpack down and walking free. The landscape has not changed. The journey is the same, but the burden is gone. That is the difference between starting your day by searching your problems first or searching for God first. The problems may still exist, but they no longer rest on your shoulders. They rest on His. This is why Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That rest is not simply a pause, it is a transformation. It is an exchange. Your heaviness for His strength, your anxiety for His peace, your fear for His assurance. And the doorway into that exchange is the decision to seek Him before anything else. When you bring your burdens to Him at the beginning of the day, you are choosing rest over exhaustion, strength over weakness, hope over despair. Over time, this practice reshapes how you view your struggles. Instead of being defined by them, you begin to see them as opportunities to experience God's faithfulness. Instead of drowning in fear, you find yourself rising in courage. Instead of carrying silent pain, you discover the healing that comes when you release it into His hands. Each morning becomes a fresh reminder that you are not alone, that your burdens are not too heavy for Him, that your soul can breathe even when life feels suffocating. So when you wake up tomorrow and the weight of your responsibilities presses down, stop and remember this truth. Do not let your first search be the burden that overwhelms you. Let it be the God who carries you. Hand Him what you cannot hold, and you will find a strength that lifts you above the weight of your troubles. When He becomes your first search, He becomes your daily strength, and the burdens that once crushed you lose their power to define you. Every day begins and ends with a choice of foundation. You can build your day on shifting ground, or you can build it on something unshakable. If the first thing you search for in the morning is control, approval, or comfort, you are laying bricks on sand. The storms of life will come, and when they do, that foundation will not hold. But if the first thing you search for is God, you are building on the rock. a foundation that stands no matter what pressures or storms rise against you. This is not theory. It is truth proven in the lives of those who have chosen to seek Him first. The strength of a building is not seen when the weather is calm, but when the winds are fierce. In the same way, the strength of your spiritual foundation is revealed in times of trial. Those who build on shifting ground collapse under pressure, but those who build on the presence of God remain standing, even when everything around them shakes. That strength does not come from avoiding the storm. It comes from being anchored before the storm arrives. Seeking God first is how you set that anchor every morning. Think of what it means to close the day the way you began it. If you start by seeking Him, your morning is framed by His peace. If you end by seeking Him, your night is held by His rest. And when both the opening and closing of your day belong to Him, the hours in between are guarded, no matter what happens. This rhythm of trust transforms ordinary days into testimonies of His faithfulness. You do not simply live through time. You walk through time with the presence of eternity holding you. When you make God your first search, you are not only shaping your day, but your destiny. You are training your heart to depend on what cannot be shaken. You are rewriting the patterns of your life from anxiety to peace, from confusion to clarity, from weakness to strength. And each morning becomes an opportunity to say again, Lord, You are my foundation. I will not search elsewhere first. I will not build on sand. I will build on You. So let this truth settle deeply into your soul. Every search tells a story. Every morning sets a foundation. Do not let your story be one of chasing shadows, or your foundation be one of fragile sand. Let your story be one of seeking God first. Let your foundation be the unshakable rock of His presence. Because when He is your first search, He becomes your constant source. And when He is your source, you will stand, you will endure, and you will live with peace no storm can take away.